What if you could be the Conor McGregor of sales? What if every single person on your sales team knew who you were, or even further than that? What if every business owner knew who you were? Maybe in the city, maybe in the country, maybe in other countries. How would that feel? Now, the true question is, how do you build that kind of brand? I'm about to show you here in this video right now. So one of the reasons that I actually used Conor McGregor as an example there is because he has built an exceptional brand. Maybe not the best brand, but you do know who he is, and that is the point. He is known as one of the bad guys in the UFC, and if you don't know who he is, just Google his name and you'll figure it out very quickly. In the UFC, nobody knew him before he started. Nobody knew who he was. He was living on the street, homeless, all that good stuff. Nobody really knew who Conor McGregor was or was to be. And then all of a sudden, he entered the UFC. And when he entered the UFC, everything in his life changed, but it was of his doing. One of the big things that he did was he built himself a personal brand around being that bad guy. Right? I remember the press conference for Jose Aldo. That was right before he was about to become the featherweight champion of the world, and it was insane. The amount of smack that he talked constantly throughout that press conference and even before that press conference that they caught on video was insane. He was a genius at talking trash. And that is what gave him such a big personal brand, is he was able to show it to a few, then show it to many in front of a huge audience. But the interesting part about that is he was always that guy that was entertaining. He just did it to few people, and then it got word, and it kept going and going, and then eventually he got a title shot because he was actually good at fighting. And when that happened, his career exploded because he got the chance to do it in front of thousands of people. And he ended up building his brand just that way. Now, you could take another approach and another example of this being The Rock. He wasn't necessarily the bad guy like Conor McGregor was. He's actually quite the opposite. He's the good guy, and most people really like The Rock. They like to look at him, they like to look up to him, all that good stuff. And for him, he was obviously football, and then wrestling, and then a movie star. And one of the big things is he's always been just this big guy that trains, has discipline, has hard work, but most importantly, he's super kind when he is on camera, when he is in front of people, when he's presenting them. He makes them feel like they are the only person he is talking to, because that's the way he wants to be heard. That is the way he wants to be presented. That is how he's built his personal brand, being that good guy. Now, with that being said, those two stories are obviously relevant because in sales, you have to build a personal brand in order to attract clients. And you need to know what you want to be perceived as. And that is exactly what I'm gonna show you on how I did it and how you could do it too. And real quick, guys, before I dive into everything, I just wanted to make a little announcement here. If you are the type of person that wants to get into sales, or you're already in sales, and you want to be able to build the personal brand, get really good at your skills, all that good stuff, make sure and check out the description below. I do have a free training video specifically for you if you are that type of person. Check it out and we'll see if we can help you out. Now, back to what I was saying before. It's all about how people present themselves. What do people want to be known in sales for? What do you want to be known in sales for? What are you truly trying to accomplish with each person that you are in front of? And how do you get a lot of sales with a personal brand? Those are all great questions, and I'm gonna answer them for you. And the biggest caveat to all of this is it's how you are perceived. Conor, maybe he's not a bad guy, but he's perceived as the bad guy, so he gets a lot of attention from that. Vice versa with The Rock. Maybe he isn't a good guy. I don't know it, right? No one does, but he is perceived as a really good guy based on the people that he's in front of, and of course the cameras he's in front of. Now, I cannot tell you what to do in these situations or what kind of personal brand that you want. That's all up to your decision. But what I can do is I can tell you how I did it. And I'm gonna start by saying, just like Conor, he didn't know anything about the UFC. Nobody knew about him, right? He was just on the street, homeless. Now, of course, I was not homeless, but I didn't know anything about sales at all. And I think one of the biggest things is I did not know how people actually perceived car salesmen before I got into a dealership. And the big thing of all is I didn't know about a personal brand, right? I didn't know how I wanted to be perceived or anything like that until I had my first experience with a customer at a car dealership. Now, if you guys know of car dealerships, you've probably bought a car yourself, or maybe you're getting ready to buy one. The worst thing is to talk to one of those car salespeople. I did not know this because I was young and I had no idea. I never really went in to buy a car, so I didn't know the perceived bad part of car salesmen. Now, I figured this out whenever I went out to the first person and talked to her. She was there to buy a Honda Civic, and as soon as I walked out and introduced myself, she rolled her eyes immediately. And of course, that kind of took me by surprise because I was like, wow, you don't even know me. I just said, hey, my name is Zach, and you already rolled your eyes at me. It was crazy. And then from that moment, I actually decided to make a change because I realized very quickly how car salespeople are actually perceived. They have a bad rap, bad name. They've been too salesy, too pushy, too everything. So with that being said, as soon as I got that eye roll, I decided to make a change in everything that I did with car sales. And my number one change was I wanted to be known kind of like The Rock, as that good guy. I wanted to go out there and not try and sell you a car, not try and be pushy, not try and think that I'm better than you, but quite the opposite, right? I wanted to serve, I wanted to care, I wanted to make sure that every person that was in front of me was cared for, was listened to. And if they wanted to buy a car, cool. If not, what did they need help with? That was the most important thing to me. I think one of the number one things that I tried to do is I tried to treat people like $1 million. Because if I wanted to attract $1 million, I must have had to treat people like $1 million themselves. And the funny thing about that is I actually built a personal brand and I built a reputation around that. Majority of the people that came to me or told their friends, hey, you should buy a car from this guy, said he is all about service. He's gonna care, he's gonna listen, he's gonna understand where you're coming from, and it'll be easy to buy a car from him. And the same thing happened whenever I actually went into online sales. I wanted to keep that reputation, keep that perceived value of being that good guy. And that was super important for my personal brand and who I was. And I did exactly that. Every person that referred or whatever the case may be came to me and said, man, I'm just super excited to get this service because I've heard good things about it. And that's super important. You need to decide what kind of personal brand that you want. Do you want the personal brand that is gonna be kind of that bad guy but gets a lot of reputation and a lot of attention? Or do you wanna be that good guy that also gets attention but really good attention? And to be honest with you, I would advise the good guy route if you are getting into sales, but build it how you want to. Every person is their own person individually, and you are gonna be creative in the way that you build it. But what I will do is I'll tell you exactly how I built it. The first thing I did was I got an experience from the woman that was trying to buy a Honda Civic when she rolled her eyes at me. And in that moment, the number one step I took was I made a decision. Who do I want to be known as, and how can I change the way that people are perceiving car salespeople? And then from that moment, I took action. I knew that I had to be of service. I knew that I had to make sure and be kind, understanding, and caring. So I worked super hard. I studied a lot on how do you do this? How do you word things to make sure that you can actually be caring, that you can understand, that you can listen? I also studied a lot of different sales frameworks to say, okay, here's a sales framework, here's a sales framework. A lot of these are pushy. How can I change it to where I'm still using that framework, but being caring and understanding? And another little small minor detail that I did when I was in person, I would actually go and make sure everything was set up before they got there, before they got to the desk, or even if I went to meet them that day, right? I would come to the desk and I would make sure they had a drink, they had anything they need, and everything was super comfortable for them. It was the little things that made the caring a huge thing later. And last but not least, this is probably the hardest part. You have to be able to maintain that. And this is gonna really come with who you are as a person for who you want to be known as. Because if you truly are that caring and understanding person, it's gonna come easy to you. For me, I just reminded myself who I wanna be, right? Every single time I sent a text, I sent a video, or I was in person. Because there is gonna be times in sales especially where people are going to get very mad at you, whatever the case may be. Maybe they throw insults, whatever. But what is your personal brand? Who are you trying to be remembered as? It's very important to keep that in the back of your mind with everything that you do, with how you respond. And I promise you, that personal brand will skyrocket skyrocket. And the big question of all is, how is it gonna get you more sales? Super simple. If you have a good reputation and you've built a good personal brand, people are going to refer you. They're going to come to you. They're gonna come to you more than anybody else on the team. And that is important. Maybe even some of the people that are customers of others will hear of your reputation and want better service. That's gonna get you way more sales, and it's also gonna make your team around you a whole lot better too. And then you start to change the culture of sales little by little. And that was exactly my goal as I went into it, and it's still my goal today. That is why we teach people, why we do everything we can, because we wanna make sure and change the perceived, I guess, value of salespeople. A lot of them are looked down upon. We wanna change that. It's about caring, understanding, and actually listening. So with that being said, if you liked this video, make sure and hit that like and subscribe button, as it would help the channel as we can spread more of this news and of this knowledge to a lot of different people that want to get into sales or already are in sales, right? And I hope this video was super valuable for you. Thanks for watching.